Do you like the idea that Kyler is the long-term fix at quarterback in Minnesota?
First of all, it's a bummer headline to read if you're J.J. McCarthy. That your head coach is just like, hey, it's not just for this year. Like, we need a long-term fix here. And I'm not even saying they're wrong, because I haven't been a J.J. McCarthy believer back to Michigan, even when he won the national championship. But my answer to this question is absolutely unequivocally no. And just like I saw Bruce Wimby take when I was working, in the Eastern Hemisphere,
yeah.
I also saw Danny's Kyler takes. And listen, I understand the NFL has a lot of television partners and you can watch games on a lot of different networks, things. I don't know where people were getting the different Cardinals games than me. I'm unaware, and I am stunned at how many people think, well, obviously he's going to be just a demonstrably different player than he's been. I don't look at the Vikings as a demonstrably better situation than his best situations in Arizona.
Really?
Really? Yeah, that's
when he had
stunning.
Peak DeAndre Hopkins, when he had,
and he was having good years those years.
He had, I thought he had one good year. I thought he had one good year. The year they started off super hot, and then they had the terrible playoff game. And he had Cliff Kingsbury as his head coach, who again I think is limited as a head coach, but obviously has an offensive mind and to get the most out of a quarterback. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin O'Connell is a really, really good play caller. And I think it is fair to say right now the jury is out on him as a head coach.
Really?
We've seen them make the playoffs twice, both times get embarrassed in the one playoff game.
I think the playoff record is fair, but he has been a very good They won 9 games last year with abysmal quarterback play.
With a team led by its defense and Brian
But he
Flores.
gets credit for that.
Well,
he's the head coach.
Okay, but I mean, I feel like his calling card is his offensive whispering, like the quarterback whispering. But regardless, I do think he's obviously a better head coach than Cliff Kingsbury. I'm just saying, Cliff Kingsbury, people liked Cliff Kingsbury. People thought that was going to work. Yeah. I don't know why people think Kyler is obviously the worst quarterback in that division. He by a lot. And tell me, KW.
I've seen Kyler rip off double-digit, wins in a row. Like I've seen him win. Did they go 11-0, 10-0?
I think they started something like that.
I've seen him play really well.
You've seen every other quarterback in that division have a higher peak. You've seen every other quarterback in that division win a playoff game. You've seen every other quarterback in that division have, I guess you could say Caleb hasn't had a better start to finish season than Kyler's best season, but I would disagree if you include the playoffs. And so I don't know why people all of a sudden think this is going to work.
So let me ask you, are you saying it's not even worth, because I'm not sure. I think, look, he was Rookie of the Year. Was a 2-time, legitimate Pro Bowler. And then he's struggled since he's had injuries and all that. If he's humbled, if he has truly been humbled, and he should be, because the Cardinals are paying him $37 million to go away and play for someone else. If he's been humbled enough to study the playbook and really be on top of that, not be as arrogant and all that, listen to O'Connell and not try to be Superman every play. Be Clark Kent more often, but then pull out the cape and be Superman when it fits. I think he could have a really good year there, and I just think it's worth a shot.
Yeah, first off, I want to ask you guys right off the top, how much do you care about this type of stuff? I'm really curious because I know majority of the time the stuff that I'm interested in and that I like in the football world, specifically football world I'm talking about in sports talk, I use it as a barometer and a reference for what other people are going to like because I'm a fan like you, right? And so the things that I like, I'm going to assume that you're going to like, and the things that you don't like, I'm going to assume a lot of times things that you're not going to like either. And of course, there's going to be differences, right? I don't think everything that I love and enjoy, you are going to love and enjoy. But we're going to have way more similarities than differences in that regard. Otherwise, we wouldn't be liking the same shows. We wouldn't be watching the same games. And you probably would not be watching this channel because I'm on it. And so if you don't like the same things as me, then I don't know why you're watching me. So that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I'm just curious how you guys feel about the talk of dynasties. What do the 76 to 83 Raiders mean to you? I mean, seriously, what does that mean to you? What does the 1970 to 1977 Cowboys mean to you? I think Colin really had such an awesome take a couple years ago or whatever where he just talked about that football really is all about just staying relevant and that a lot of these other leagues, especially Major League Baseball, he's like you can't watch a game without them bringing up Babe Ruth. It's true. You really can't. You can't watch a single. My dad, he knows baseball better than any other person I've ever met. And honestly, he knows baseball better than anyone you see on TV. Like, that was a missed calling for him that he could have done. You know, he could be doing what I'm doing but with baseball and he knows more about baseball than I'll know honestly about anything in my life. And like I can't ever have a conversation with him without him bringing up well, you know, in 1927 and you know, he like brings up like, you know, whoever. And I'm just like, okay, you know, but like what? It doesn't matter right now. It doesn't matter. It's 2026, okay? You know, not 1926. And football's just not like that. And I think it was a great take by Colin a couple years ago where he's like, I don't know how many passing yards Tom Brady has or how many passing touchdowns. He's like, that stuff doesn't matter. You know, the numbers and the stats and the history matter so much more for baseball than it does say for football. And especially because I think majority of people who are on YouTube are going to be in their 20s to 30s and flirting with the 40s and whatnot. And again, I know I interact with people who are younger and who are in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, but I think the main core is going to be 20s to 30s or so. Most likely would be my guess anywhere between I guess like 18 and like 45 would probably be that is like the meat and potatoes demographic of all this type of stuff. But I mean, the vast majority of people weren't truly watching forming memories and even knowing what they're actually watching if you were watching the Raiders in 1978. I just, you know, even if you were alive and watching football games, I mean, did you really know what you were watching? Did you really know what you were seeing? So, does it really matter to you? Does it really land to you? I'm just curious honestly because it's like what we're going to debate which dynasties and where they should be. And you know, since he was giving other places for teams that didn't necessarily win rings, like talking about the Buffalo Bills, it's like, well, you could throw in the Philadelphia Eagles with Andy Reid making 4 straight NFC championship games. It's like, okay, like I look at runs to me, I have a different definition of dynasty. I just look at stretches of greatness. And so for me, I look at Tom Brady and the New England Patriots' entire career, their entire match as a dynasty. I really, really do. And same thing, and I said the same thing for the Kansas City Chiefs when I kept saying I don't care about the three-peat and when Colin said, oh, it's an end of a dynasty and like all that type of stuff. I was like Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, like as long as it's Andy Reid and Spags, as long as it's still like the main core. I'm like that entire career is the dynasty. That entire career is dynasty. Now things might take a turn, you know, with the injuries and whatnot. So we will see how that all looks. But, you know, that's just the way that I look at it because I'm just looking at it like how great have you been and what not only what did you accomplish, but like a lot of times when I look at dynasties, it's just like how much were you feared? How much was it were we just constantly talking about how great, how special, how elite were you year after year after year? Like even in the years that the Patriots didn't win a Super Bowl, you were still like this is New England. This is Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, etc. Like there was no doubt in that. Same thing with the Kansas City Chiefs. Same thing with some of these Cowboys teams, some of these Eagles teams with Andy Reid, even though they didn't win the Super Bowl, they were still like clearly top of the NFL, right? The stretches of the Commanders as well, or whatever they were called back in the old days, back in my dad's days, you know, and all of that type of stuff. So, it's just I don't know. It's just interesting to me. You know, the Brett Favre with the Packers, Elway with the Broncos. I think sometimes these dynasties really also largely depend on or your connection to them, I should say. How old were you? How locked in were you? How much were you watching football? How much did you care? Were these teams beating teams that you liked, that you truly cared about? Or were you a little bit more disconnected from them? Because considering what team you like, it's like it didn't really matter what the 49ers were doing in the 80s or didn't really matter what the Patriots were doing. Oh, and that's the thing. I feel like a handful of these teams kind of really transcended all of that. The Patriots, like I think some of these teams became phenomenons, you know, the Chiefs became a phenomenon, the Patriots became a phenomenon. And maybe that's obviously those are the most recent ones. And so those are the ones that I'm going to have the most familiarity with. And obviously again I know the greatness of Aikman and company and etc. So I'm an Elway like that's not lost on me. But I just think it's always going to be harder for these modern for the new fans, the up and coming fans, people that are getting integrated in this. If you're 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're starting to really become more of a consumer of this type of content in a way that you probably weren't when you were 14, 15, or whatever, I just don't know how much you're going to care and really look to John Elway and the Broncos. Like, I just don't think it lands and I just don't know how much it matters. And to me, at this point, the two truly most meaningful dynasties really do become the Patriots and the Chiefs. Not because it's recency bias, because I feel as though that they captured the NFL in a way. And again, mainly because of the time because you had the internet, you had social media, we had cell phones, we could watch all these games in a way that we simply could not. I don't even remember how if you wanted was it pay-per-view. Like in 1997, if you didn't get a Broncos game, did you have the ability to did you have to just pay premium cable? Was there an NFL package back then? I don't know, man. I wasn't paying for cable, so I don't in 1997, you know, whatever my dad got and it was whatever was in front of us or did you have to read the newspaper or just watch highlights on ESPN? I don't even remember. I have no idea. So. It's just one of those things where we have such significant access in a way that just captures these things with the Chiefs and the Patriots. So, it's like that to me makes a greater impact when we talk about the whole NFL landscape and football as a whole. And again, I already hear some of the Cowboys fans behind me chirping because there's a handful of Cowboys fans that I talk to all the time on this channel. You know, shout out JCT, Travis, Grover. They're going to be what do you mean 92 to 95 was amazing? You know, and they're going to I hear it. I feel it and I get it because that's your team and and it's not to say that those teams and same thing with the Broncos fan base. You know, the Bronco fan base is going to get on me as well. I get it. I just think that these most recent dynasties of the Patriots and the Chiefs, they just hit differently. And I think it's a combination between the faces that propelled them as well as the timing of when it all happened and what sports talk, the NFL, the internet, all that stuff. What it all just came together in a way that these other dynasties did not have the opportunity for, right? They just didn't have the opportunity for. Ohtani will always be in a better position to become a bigger superstar than Babe Ruth just because of the timing of everything and quite frankly even more modern-day athletes like a Patrick Mahomes has the ability to be way more famous and popular than even Tom Brady because the beginning of his career, the internet was already fully here. You could be a 12-year-old locked in on Patrick Mahomes in 2018 in a way that you simply could not with Tom Brady in 2001. We had to go on AOL or something, you know, keyword Tom Brady. I don't even know. It just wasn't what it is today. And so all of that matters. All of that matters. And that's just the lens that I'm choosing to look at it through right now because what am I? The 71-73 dynasty is definitely above the 9,295 dynasty. And that's why at the top I just asked you guys all what does this all mean to you in the first place? I mean I'll be real honest. This stuff means so little to me. Means so little to me. I would either skip this segment or I'd be watching it and I'd just be doing a whole bunch of other stuff and I would not care how much I listened to how much I retained. It's like what did Nick say there? I don't know. Who cares, and I just keep on keeping on. What does Brew have to say about this? I don't know, man. I don't really care. Like I'd rather talk about like what can the Raiders do this season to get on track. What's the best coach for them? Like I really do care more about what's happening today rather than trying to hash out what the 82-91 Commanders. And it's not to say that you forget about them because 10, 15, 20 years from now, I'll be like, I don't really care what the Kansas City Chiefs did in 2018 and 2024. And maybe I'll be talking to my kids and grandchildren or whatever and I'll be like, you don't know how great the Chiefs were in 2018-24. Like, man, they were the whole world hated them cause they just kept winning. And you know, Taylor Swift, yeah, she was a looker back in those days and she was really a doll. You don't realize how popular she was too, and then blah 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 blah, and then she married Travis Kelce. Yeah, they got a divorce, but like you know, like I don't know man, like maybe that's what it will be, but in a lot of ways I like not living in the past. I live in the past a lot in my own personal life, my own nostalgia. But when it comes to sports, like I don't know. I'm actually, weirdly enough, like my dad is incredibly nostalgic with that type of stuff. And there's some of the so many epic amazing moments that I've witnessed that I watched or that I even in my own life of playing sport. And it's just like they just feel like they're in the past, you know? Like I remember watching so many various Super Bowls, so many various moments where you're just like, this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. This is amazing. This is awesome. I can't believe what I'm witnessing. And they just become distant, faded memories. And then you're on to the next incredibly exciting moment, right? That's why it feels like every year it's like this is the throw of in the history of the NFL. This is the game one of people are saying that the Seahawks-Rams game was one of the greatest games of all time. One of the greatest playoff games of all time, and they compare it to the 13-second game and this and that. And even when we were watching that game, I was like, we're either going to watch an even crazier comeback than what we saw, a crazier moment than we saw in the 13-second game, or the Seahawks are going to win, right? And it was just like we're either going to witness like something even more insane than what we've already just witnessed, or the Seahawks are just going to win, and and now they're going to the Super Bowl, which is insane in its own right, right? Watching the Eagles absolutely annihilate the Chiefs was pretty mind-blowing. It was something that virtually nobody saw coming at all. The back and forth of the Chiefs and the Eagles. The overtime game with the 49ers and the Chiefs. The Bucs with Tom Brady was insane. The Giants taking down the undefeated Patriots, something nobody saw coming. Like there's just every year, at least every couple of years, we witness something that we're just like this is pretty insane. This is pretty wild. And yeah, I find it really difficult to compare the modern era of football to things that happened in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s. And that is what makes Tom Brady so unique, is that he was a part of essentially like 3 different NFL eras, like he literally played in different sets of rules. Just look at the uniforms that he wore and the padding and the helmets. Just look at the physical style that Tom Brady wore. Very similar to LeBron, where we have footage of LeBron wearing baggy long shorts that feel like it's down to their ankles, and then the super high shorts that make it look like they're playing in like the 60s or whatever. You're like, whoa. You see some old stuff from LeBron early in his career and you're like, wow, that was a style. You're like, that was how did they play basketball in that much fabric? Like I don't even understand, like how do you even dribble between your legs? Like what even is happening? And then you had it get shorter and shorter and shorter, and even Steph to a little bit degree, who obviously didn't play as far as LeBron, but then you got in the era where now also everyone's wearing the leggings and whatnot, which you weren't wearing that type of stuff back then either. And so it's just I don't know. It's a trip. It's a trip. And so, yeah, I'm just curious what you guys are all thoughts are, or if you love football. If you're locked in, I shouldn't say love football because you can love football a ton and not care about this type of stuff as much, but are you so locked into the history and love the history of the NFL and football so much that things like this hit for you? Because I do know a lot of sports people are pretty nostalgic. Maybe I'm an outlier with that type of stuff. And maybe that's where I just differ, but I find it fun to see some of the highlights and see some of the past and relive some of the moments and whatnot, but like I'm totally content watching a football game, even if it's a random Week 9 game. And like, I don't always need you to bring up that time that Troy Aikman did that thing against the Raiders, I don't know. It just sometimes it's cool to maybe just get a little snippet of that and then I just move on. So, that's to me with these dynasties kind of all land for me. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Nick Wright's greatest dynasty tiers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much.